Skin is the largest organ in our body, covering near about 20 square meter of area. And this is the organ which actually is responsible for the sensations, like several receptors for sensations, certain sensations like touch or temperature detection, something like that. Even uh, like many kind of reception, it does. Nextly, it actually is a protective layer which protects our internal body organ and our rest of the body, you can say, from the attack of any microorganism pathogens, or even some sort of external conditions, even some physical impact. Thirdly, this is also a secretory organ which produces certain secretions which also helping in all these processes of protection and all. So let's learn about this structure a bit in detail. First and foremost, if we talk about the skin, it is not a very smooth layer. It rather has its own specific design where you can see the macro image of the skin magnified right there in the right hand side, where it actually behaves like it actually has these cracks and crevices all around. But this all structure is somewhat necessary for its own. It's actually a design that is made, that has developed for the like different purposes of the skin itself. Now, talking about the skin, if we go for the anatomy, for the cross section of it, the skin will be divided into these three layers. The topmost main protective layer, which is the epidermis, followed by the sensory layer, the dermis, and the supportive layer, the hypodermis section. Underneath that, we will find connective tissue, some little bit of fat layer, and along with and right next to that will be the muscles and the rest of the body viscera. So it is actually, this is the one layer which is not a single layer but rather multiple layers that makes up the entire structure. And it is the one responsible for like entire distribution, entire like protection, giving protection and all these different purposes that it actually does. So all these different layer, they work together for that particular purpose. Now let's elaborate the entire thing a bit in detail. So a skin will be majorly like the layer, the epidermis layer, the outermost epidermis layer. There will be a short video for the like epidermis. I'll explain it in a very short video, the different layers that are there. And the dermis layer, which is actually the main sensory layer, which is the one in focus for our topic at the moment, because it is this particular layer where we find that the different types of structures and the receptor organs, everything, or the receptor, should not say receptor organ but rather receptor cells or receptor structures are actually present here. Now, talking about the skin, we know the skin, they do have hair. Being a mammal, mammal actually has a lot of hair in the skin, which helps in the insulation and which also helps in a kind of detection also. So this hair follicle, it will be found to be there present in the dermis region, from where the hair actually it aches, it forms out. Now this hair follicle will always have the sebaceous gland or the oily product, the one that produces the oily product called the sebum. It is present there, and it is this material which makes the hair look a bit more shiny, because it coats the entire hair with that sebum oil. And let's keep that in mind, that this particular layer is the one responsible, or this actually structure, this small secretory gland is what is responsible for blocking the entry of the pathogens to our body even. Next, if we see along with this structure, we will find there will be like sweat glands that are present there. Now, the sweat glands are actually of two particular varieties. The one shown here is called the eccrine type of sweat glands, which are separate, which remains completely separately, not connected with any hair. There is another one that actually exists, which is called the apocrine type, apocrine sweat glands, are the one which remains connected with the hair. Means actually the apocrine one, it produces the sweat along with the hair, and right from that hair follicle, from the like we find that the sweat actually it exudates out. And in case of eccrine, it is actually there are separate pores from where the entire sweat it actually comes out. Now this sweat is necessary to regulate the body temperature, because skin is responsible for maintaining our body's thermal regulation, because it is the one which actually produces this sweat, which not only carries some excretory material of the skin, that means all the metabolites that are produced in um the harmful metabolites, definitely the one produced in our skin. This is actually the way it is being excreted out. This is the excretory system of the skin. But along with it, the water that comes along with it, it actually helps in cooling down the body temperature, because when water is evaporating, it takes away the body heat and then cools the body down. It works alongside with the blood vessels that can be found in the dermis region, where the capillaries they actually dilate itself. They undergo vasodilation when the internal body temperature increases way too much. Then that leads to like flow of blood through this area, which will exchange the heat with the external surrounding, means the outer part of the body, and that way it actually cools the blood down. When this colder blood it enters the body, it regulates. Colder, it doesn't mean that it is getting freezing temperature or something like that, no, but it is actually the one which actually takes away maximum or exchange maximum of the heat that is generated from the in the inner part of the body. So these two they work in as a the system, the thermoregulatory system of our body. So they are important, definitely. Right along with it, we are going to find there will be this erector pili muscle, which is the one responsible for movement of the hairs. Now this is actually somewhat like we don't have this one as a very active type of muscles in our body. It is considered as a bit rudimentary, because in other mammals this works like very effectively, and they are responsible for regulating the body temperature by the help of the hairs. So for them it is quite active, but for the case of human it is a bit towards the vestigial side. Now along with it, we will find the receptors, different type of receptors that are present in the entire dermis region, and these receptors are the one responsible for helping in detecting all these different kind of sensations. um, Underneath this entire dermal layer, or the dermis layer rather, we are going to find that the hypodermis layer it starts, which is a very thick layer, and it majorly consists of a large amount of like adipose tissues. Those adipose tissues are like the subcutaneous adipose, they are also called, or subcutaneous fat we call them. So they are mainly the cushion, means because the skin when it comes in contact with some strong like tough object, or maybe hit by something, some mechanical force is exerted on this particular structure. It actually this adipose layer which protects the internal organ from getting any kind of trauma. Let's keep it this in mind that our skin is actually a protective barrier. It is the first line of defense for our body. Anything that tries to enter our body, it is being rejected and stopped right there in the skin. Yes, unless some sort of trauma exerted by some metallic substances or something like hard substances which are causing a cut, abrasion, puncture, something it happens. Until that, it actually protects our body. It the epidermal layer, this which actually consists of like different layers of tissues, will also contain like some amount of specific macrophages, which are actually the type of defense cells of our body, immune cells of our body, and is the one responsible for capturing all that has entered, means everything that is foreign which tries to enter through that particular area. These macrophages go and like simply eat them and protects our body, means any bacteria trying to enter, macrophages attack and kill them directly there. Not only that, the macrophages is also responsible for initiating or triggering the immune response, which can be noticed as if any kind of inflammation or any kind of attack of some sort it takes place, then we find that there is a huge abundance of different kinds of granulocyte cells in the dermal region, in the dermis region, because it is like this macrophages in the epidermis region which triggers the rest other type of immune cells to gather together in that particular spot. For that again, the blood capillary will play a major role, because this vasodilation that it takes that it does in this particular area is the one which is responsible for letting all these immune cells to come out also. That is our immunological protection that we get from our skin. So skin in those particular term, it is like very useful, definitely. Now next to that, this proverbial term thick skin, it is not only a proverb, but it is actually a literal word. It actually, our body has got different area of different thickness of skin. Some places we find that the skin has got a very thick epidermal layer which is necessary for the protection, like say our palm or in our feet or all this area. We are going to find that there is actually a thick layer of epidermis, quite tough a layer. And the way we will understand it is actually because this particular layer will not have too much of hair follicles coming out of it. So these all areas are majorly for this mechanical protection, because the epidermis, it actually acts as a shield, and it's the one which is responsible for all the protection. But rest of the part of different kind of sensory organs will be found in this particular region. It is all associated, it is all they are associated in different part of this structure. And blood vessels will be in abundance also in this particular region. Thin cell on the other hand, means thin skins on the other hand, is actually is the area where we find the epidermis layer comparatively thinner, and there will be hair follicles like the rest of the body. We find that, keep in mind, the thinnest area of like the skin with the thinnest like width is actually in our eyelids. It is like the area where the thinnest type of skin is present. But we are not going to find hair follicles originating from the middle of the eyelid, because it is not necessary there. But we do find that hair are actually it is present, because we have eyelashes growing out in that particular area. On that particular term, like the eyelashes is actually definitely it is like a type of skin layer which is producing this hair cells out from there, hair out from there, not hair cells, right? Hair out from there. And it actually contains a specific kind of apocrine type of sweat glands, which is actually sometimes called the ciliary gland, and is the one responsible for producing this special kind of sweat, which is like our tear only, and is the one responsible for not only lubricating but protecting our eyes. Now let's talk about the sensory organs of the skin. The sensory organs, like, it ranges from the temperature detection to touch to uh, like any pinch or pain, such kind of thing. So we have a thermoreceptor in the skin, which is majorly responsible like for any change in temperature or like sensitivity to cold or anything like that. The thermoreceptors are called the Krauss corpuscles, which is the one shown as the left hand side one. Then we have the Meissner corpuscles or Meissner corpuscles, which are actually the corpuscle response, or which are actually the receptor responsible for touch. So anything that we touch, we actually feel with the help of this particular receptor cells. Now, nociceptors are actually like extension of the nerves only. It is like a simple modification of the nerves itself, a dendrite region of the nerve, which they themselves only is responsible for detection of pain, any kind of pain. So we say that the free nerve endings are actually the pain receptor of our body. But it is not only the pain receptor, sometimes this also act as a touch receptor also, because not necessarily that everywhere we have the Meissner corpuscles. So we will find that this is the one which some places they are acting like that uh, sensory organ for the touch. Next, we have this Pacinian corpus cells, which are the pressure sensor, or the one which is responsible for sensing any kind of like pinch or anything like that. So we whenever we have a pinching or any kind of uh, pressure in our skin, is something trying to enter through our skin through pressure or something like that, it is this one which gives a signal, and we finally be able to detect that. Now the sense of touch, the sense of majorly touch, no, not the other one, but it's actually what will be seen to be there with the with the hair cell also, means free free nerve endings will be there bound with the hair cell, due to which whenever the hair it moves, maybe due to air current or maybe due to simple touch, it actually gives the sensation to the to our brain that the skin is touching something. We definitely we feel that with the help of our hair also. So that is all about the different types of receptors that we have in our skin.